we complained about Monty not making adjustments, Monty never calling timeouts. Like,
we did.
But that's the thing is, what did we complain about with Vogel this year? We complained
the
about
same stuff.
the
at least he
adjustments, the
called
rotations.
timeouts a little bit better.
Yeah, no, he did. But I'm just saying, every coach that comes in, we're gonna do this shit with. Every single fucking coach that comes in, we're gonna do this with.
Yeah.
Like, it's a thing that fan bases do with their coaches when they're not winning.
So we move on. Fires Monty, hires Vogel. Yeah, well, you know.
Oh, man.
I think we're mostly in agreement that, you know, Monty kind of, it was time for Monty to move on to his next adventure. Frank Vogel maybe was the best option available at the time.
I disagree with that. I might be the only one, but I think you should have given Monty a year. He had a month or two to work with Kevin Durant. They went to the second round, got fired. Yeah, they got their ass beat in game 6 and in an elimination game again at home. But, like, they didn't have their starting center. They didn't have Chris Paul. They were starting Landry Shamet and Jock Landale in an elimination game against Nikola Jokic and the eventual champs. Like, I'm sorry, that could happen in that type of scenario. And I said it at the time, if you're firing Monty Williams, okay, fine, but you better be sure that you nail the next hire. And guess what we're doing this year? A year later, we're saying the same thing about Frank Vogel because Frank Vogel is now gone. So you didn't get the hire right. That's the one that I understand why it happened because, you know, obviously Monty was hired well before Ishbia was put in charge here. But I do think, like, if you were going to fire Monty Williams, you needed to nail that next hire. A year later, we're doing the same thing. So they didn't.
First off, Cheryl, do not insult my Australian sensation.
Yeah,
I love Jock, but if he's starting against Nikola Jokic in an elimination playoff game,
job, Gerald.
It's nothing personal again. He did.
Earl
He actually
and Jock,
did.
shout out.
He did. But Nikola Jokic still had his way with him.
Okay,
So,
well, who doesn't Jokic have his way with?
I mean, to that extent, though.
This may surprise people. I agree with you with a caveat when it comes to Monty Williams.
Okay.
If you knew you were going to trade DeAndre Ayton, if that was the plan, then I think they should have given Monty Williams another year because everything we heard was that was the fractured relationship in a lot of ways, that was problematic. And if you knew you were going to get rid of him, I would have been intrigued to see what Monty Williams could have done.
I don't think they knew they were going to get rid of him.
I
think they had waited too long with DA and all the offers they were getting, they weren't willing to pull the trigger on because they didn't think it was enough. And then Portland presented itself and they were like, this is probably the best we're going to do. Let's move forward on it. I don't think they were fully 100% they knew they were going to move DA.
I think it's right in the middle. I think you're right.
I'm not saying they didn't want to.
No, yeah. I think you're right to listen. I remember vividly that summer. They were trying to move DA, but the packages were atrocious.
Yeah.
And so I think there was a little bit of a moment where you're like, okay, we may keep DA. And I think that's where the whole Monty thing and there's a disconnect there. And then the right opportunity presented itself with Dame. We lucked out and got a decent deal for Ayton. But to be short, Gerald, I couldn't agree more. And I can't believe I'm saying this because I was one of the people saying, I think we need to change. But hindsight being 2020, able to digest how the season played out, I couldn't agree more. I'm fascinated with what this season would have looked like with 1 year of Monty Williams. I really am, especially knowing that DeAndre was going to be gone at that point. I think I would have loved to give Monty one more crack because there was more continuity and chemistry, and he just had a better grasp of things. But, it is what it is. Can't do it.
We complained about Monty not making adjustments, Monty never calling timeouts. Like,
we did.
But that's the thing is, what did we complain about with Vogel this year? We complained about
the same stuff.
The
at least he
adjustments,
called
the rotations.
timeouts a little bit better.
Yeah, no, he did. But I'm just saying, every coach that comes in, we're going to do this shit with. Every single fucking coach that comes in, we're going to do this with.
Yeah.
It's a thing that fan bases do with their coaches when they're not winning.
I think they have a better regular season and wind up in a very similar place in the playoffs.
With Bud?
No, with
Monty.
With Monty?
If he had stayed an extra year. And I still don't think that Vogel was their first or second choice and may not have even been their third that they wanted last year.
I agree with that.
It felt like I'm settling higher, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's half and half.